welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who once spent 72 harrowing hours when an escalator broke down, and he was trapped in Disney's Animal Kingdom's electric eel escalator escapade. It's Robert Lamb.
Actually, Mark, it was 73 hours.
73 hours. I mean, so, Mitch Hedberg says when escalators break down, well, they can't break down because they become stairs.
Right.
But you were trapped with electric eels because it was the escalator escapade.
Right. And there was a person in front of me and behind me, and they just wouldn't move.
Yeah. I mean, when it stopped, like, they didn't know what to do, right? So you guys, there was just a packed escalator, and someone saw someone who looked like Tom Cruise throwing a piece of bubble gum on one of the tanks, and then the tank exploded, right?
Yeah.
And then all the eels got out, short-circuited the escalator. I mean,
and one of us turned into a big blue electric bad guy and fought Spider-Man. Not me, though. That was the other guy in front of me. Yeah,
so, I mean, what was it like? I mean, I know you had a backpack with snacks, so that was good.
Well, of all the rides, it was not my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, 72 hours.
73.
73 hours. Like, just...
Yeah.
I mean...
It's the only reason why I specify is because that last hour was really the worst.
Yeah. And, like, for some reason, like, they kept taking people one by one out, right? And you stayed till the end.
Yeah.
Because you're terrible at paper, rock, scissors.
I mean, that's the truth of it, but what I was going to say is because I'm a good person, Mark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you're a great... Well, you lost on purpose.
Right. I wanted people to not only get saved before me, but to also feel like a champ at paper, rock, scissors. Yeah. Or rock, paper, scissors is how I say it.
I mean, it was a terrible experience, so at least they had a win leaving.
That's true, but now it is, as Mitch Hedberg said, just stairs. So it's not the worst thing.
You know what I used to do is I used to tell people, hey, when I play rock, paper, scissors, I only do scissors. I'm like, let's play. And so I would just do scissors constantly. But then I would like start to do like this little smile at them and like look people in the eyes. And I don't know why, but sometimes they would just do paper.
Right.
And I would just do scissors again. I'm like, hey, I win. Like I said exactly what I was going to do. And then as the game went on, I kind of shook their confidence.
It's a mind game. I mean, you're messing with them. No one thinks that you're going to continue to do scissors the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, you tell them that, they're like, okay, maybe he will, and then you keep doing it. They want to call you on your bluff, but you're not bluffing. It's a mind game.
Yeah. I mean,
messing with them.
My win percentage is about 0.00001.
Yeah, but every once in a while, somebody throws a paper.
Yeah, it feels good, too.
Yeah. Like, well, it feels good to win that way, because you're saying, I'm gonna do it, and then you do it, and you still win.
And then it eliminates you actually trying and losing. Like, you're losing almost on purpose to be a jerk and to trick somebody. And you're not earnestly trying to win.
And you don't want to think too hard. You got other things on your mind, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's three options. That's like a lot of brain. Like you got to move your hand 3 times. Is it 1, 2, 3 shoot? Is it 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
Like, if you're chewing gum, if you're drinking coffee at the same time, like, it's all over.
Honestly, every single time I play rock, paper, scissors, I feel like the first one is always a mess up because nobody knows whether to go on 3 or shoot.
Yes.
And even when you specify it, you're like, we're going to go on 3. And then they like still kind of hesitate a little bit.
Yep. No, you're right. It's never, that's a good point. So like the first one's just like a gimme.
Yeah, it's just like, let's just practice this game before we start.
Like, if we're basing, the freedom of the free world on the first go-around of paper, rock, scissors, you're in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I played odds and evens one time and accidentally threw out a rock. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just supposed to throw out a 1 or a 2. Oh, well. I just got used to it. I saw somebody throw out a 2. I thought it was scissors, and I thought I was going to nail it with the rock. But nope. Not the same game.
Everyone just got confused, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that when the riot of 2009 occurred in your section of St. Petersburg? Because that misunderstanding?
No, that's when they built the Berlin Wall.
Oh, gotcha.
Was actually because of that.
The
big separation.
I mean, St. Petersburg, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people don't realize that, but we're talking about Russia this whole time.
So, like, Russia was a communist country, and then every city across the world that was named after a Russian city also became communist. Or half and half. And then when it went half and half, it became half and half.
People didn't know that. People don't realize that. It's that simple.
Well, now that we're done with the St. Pete history lesson. So, in the classic words of John Lazarev, I think we have a listener question. And this one comes from James Mula, who, all right, so here's some backstory. I lived in Korea for a year. And one night when we were out, probably doing karaoke, having some soju, having some fun, I declared to all my coworkers that I could knock out both a ghost and a wizard. And I was earnest about it. Like, I don't know why. I was young and dumb. And that kind of became an in-joke for all of us about me knocking out a ghost or a wizard. So he sent me a question. He's like, how many wizards have actually been punched in the face? I saw a lot of glancing blows in the Two Towers, but did Gandalf ever take a haymaker?
I don't think he did. Did he?
I mean, like, I watched his fight with Saruman. It was just them throwing their staffs at each other, then them flying backwards and doing, like, triple flips.
That's true. None of them actually, like, did they land a physical punch? I don't think they did.
They just kind of did, pointed the stick at the person, and then they flew back.
Okay, well, here's one thing. And maybe I shouldn't admit this, but I've only seen the first Harry Potter movie. So I don't know if there is in the whole Harry Potter, saga, any kind of fist punching.
The Prisoner of Azkaban, I believe, Hermione punches Malfoy in the face. She socks him in the nose. So he's going to become a wizard. So
Yeah, but is he a wizard yet?
Cause he knows magic. So he was born into a family that were wizards.
Okay.
So I would say a good punch was landed there. Also, Malfoy kicks Harry in the face in one of the movies, knocks him unconscious. I was doing a lot of research about, like, Willow. I know the two ladies battle and there's some, like, scratches and face punches there. But after thinking about wizards, I was like, they're kind of lazy.
Well, I think because you have the magic and you have a staff, there really is no reason to get down and dirty into, like, a huge brawl. You know what I mean? Like, just use your staff, use some magic.
But they never clean. They just have, like, a spell on brooms.
Yeah, that's true.
These wizards are spoiled. I
was just gonna say, they don't want to get physical. I get it.
And I gotta say, the show Magicians on Sci-Fi, I love it.
I didn't know that was a show.
At first, I was, like, really skeptical about it. I don't know why, but then I started watching it with my wife, Megan. It was really good, man. Like, the latest episode, the cast, at the end, they sang Bowie and Queen's,
Under Pressure?
Yeah, Under Pressure. And, like, on Sci-Fi, you can drop F-bombs, and, like, it's just, like, a cheeky... It's a good show, man. I like it. At first, I wasn't all aboard it, but now I'm like, that in Riverdale, I'm like all about.
Yeah, I was always skeptical of, like, sci-fi shows. I know every once in a while they put out a decent one, but there's some that are, like, really, I don't know, iffy. But I haven't heard of this one.
It's worth watching.
I'll check it out.
So, I guess, also in Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, Gretel and Hansel, they throw some haymakers at witches. So, I guess to answer the question, I don't think I've ever seen Gandalf. Like, I was going to do some research. He's never been
Gandalf.
Nah, he's never been punched in the face by an orc.
Did you ever read the books? I only read The Hobbit. I never read the Lord of the Rings books.
Nah, just The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he lands, I guess, yeah, not many punches to the face.
Can you imagine, like, a UFC style fight, like, in Lord of the Rings books that just never made it to film? That could be in there, I don't know.
Yeah, Gandalf fighting, just a large orc, or an Uruk-hai. And well, Aragorn took some punches from an Uruk-hai, but he's not a wizard.
Nah, he's not a wizard. He's, What was Aragorn?
He's a ranger.
A knight? Ranger, that's what it was.
Dude, I'm dropping some knowledge here on my Lord of the Rings.
Dude, it's weird because I just watched all three. Like, remember when that hurricane was coming through, Hurricane Irma? Yeah, like, before it hit, we got off the day before it was supposed to make landfall in Florida. And I ended up just watching all the Lord of the Rings movies in a row. And the extended versions, because I hadn't done that yet. I'm like, I have them all. I have yet to watch them all in a row, like all the extended versions. I'm going to do it.
That sounds like a great day.
It's good. It was a good day.
Coincidentally, when I was in middle school and we had hurricane days in Florida, I would rent UFC VHS tapes to watch all the early UFC fights.
Oh, nice.
It's a good callback.
Wait, they had those at
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster?
Yeah. I used to rent every boxing and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And then, like, practice them on my friends, and then they all hated me.
Aw.
So we did something bad to ourselves again, Robert.
What's that?
We always so you've joined us for the Aliens. We've covered the entire Aliens filmography.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have covered Alfred Hitchcock's legacy. Like, we've tackled some really...
And James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
20-something movies.
Yeah, and we packed all, and so I love this topic, and I've really loved researching for it, but you and I decided to tackle the 1960s and pick one film from 1960 to 1969 and talk about its influences throughout the decade. It was awesome.
That's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
A lot of movies, but a lot of good movies.
I feel like we were much more naive when we talked about this topic.
Luckily, a lot of these are like favorite movies of mine, so it wasn't too bad, but there were some that I had to like rewatch because it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. We've watched all these, and the 10 movies that we go through, I just want to give everyone a heads up. There probably are some more influential films throughout this decade, but we picked the ones that we love, and maybe we kind of wanted to offer everything in this podcast, not just like talk about the same old, same old.
And we tried to pick one movie from each year, so if there was like multiple movies in one year, we just tried to pick one, you know what I mean? So it's hard.
Yeah, but I think these 10 movies we picked, after researching them and kind of rewatching them, you can still feel their presence today.
Yeah, definitely. I think the 60s and 70s were like the greatest decades for film.
And you know what I think about the 60s is, so you got like this, 61, 60, you have, movies like Spartacus, and you have movies like Breakfast at Tiffany. And in 69, you have Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a decade with as wild a swing of content.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Because
it was.
It's like the 70s. I mean, like, all right, so, the 2000s obviously changed just because superhero films hit it big. It doesn't mean the content is that much different. But when you look at the 60s, dude, holy crap. Like, obviously, the times are changing. There's a Vietnam War, there was the counterculture, the swinging 60s, but they were still, Hollywood was still kind of clinging to the culture of the 50s. So it was like a very interesting shift in film for a while.
Yeah, because you kind of got more like these artsy films rather than these these constant studio made films that were like either love stories or gangster films, but they all had kind of the same kind of feel in like the 40s and 50s. And then you got a little bit more like people started to like, they want to go their own way and really kind of develop something that was brand new to the medium. And you get like a whole wide range of different films.
Yeah, the golden age they say is 67 to 74.
Yeah.
I guess we can tackle a lot of these movies going in, but I don't know, as you and I are both like, we're massive film nerds, and I think we love, 60s, it's not even that old of cinema, but no. I think this decade is a major changing point in cinema, so I think it's really fun. And we're not saying that the movies that we're covering in the beginning, like the movies in 1960 through 66, they're not old school, old Hollywood movies. These movies you still feel today. So, you want to get started with 1960?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. And this was your pick. Do you want to jump into this?
Yeah. So for 1960, we chose The Apartment, directed by Billy Wilder, starring Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine and what's his name, Fred McMurray.
Yep.
And basically, The Apartment is about a guy who works in this big office building. I forget what his actual job is. He's like it's basically working in like cubicles and like these like.
It's like a Chandler from Friends job.
Yeah, it's like some kind of accountant or something.
Yeah.
But all his higher ups use his apartment. This one guy, he's kind of a pushover. They use his apartment to kind of meet up with chicks and have affairs. And he has to a lot of the times give his key away, and then he goes to a bar and hangs out. Waits till his higher ups are like doing their thing with these women, and then they leave the key and he goes back home and goes to sleep and stuff. But he's he's kind of like a loner. And then he also because he's a pushover, he's not really trying to do it to like move up in the company, I think. But the fact that his higher ups are like, hey, if you keep doing this, we'll put in a good word for you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I still think he's more of it's more of him just being a nice guy. But it's basically a romantic comedy because he ends up falling for this girl and she ends up being tied with his boss.
What, Mr. Sheldrake?
Sheldrake is his boss. His name is C.C. Baxter.
Yep.
I don't know what the C.C. stands for.
And you know what's crazy?
Alvin.
There's still a term for Baxter today, like Carrie Ells from Liar Liar.
Oh yeah.
There's a movie called The Baxter from Michael Showalter and David Wayne where the Baxter's so you have those movies where the husband's a jerk and he's separated from his wife, but then he kind of learns to become a better person. Then his wife dumps the Baxter that she's dating, like the really nice pushover guy. So it's kind of crazy that the term Baxter from 1960 is people still use that term today.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then this movie, like, in 1960, like, so, we watch Mad Men and we know that there was like this kind of crazy Mad Men culture in the big cities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really did a good job showcasing like the infidelity. There's a lot of drinking. There's suicide. Like there's
Okay, well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is this movie is like, to me, was shocking, especially like Billy Wilder was known for kind of some darker things because he directed he directed Ace in the Hole, which was like a really dark movie with Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he met this guy named IAL Diamond, who was like a friend of his, and they started writing together. And I heard that it was IAL Diamond who would interject a lot of comedy into these stories that Billy Wilder would tell. Because Double Indemnity, Sunset Boulevard, Ace in the Hole were all these dark films. They're really good films, classics. But IAL Diamond, when he came along, he started interjecting a little bit more comedy into it. So this became more of a romantic comedy. But I think if Billy Wilder just directed it and wrote it by himself, it could have been, like you're saying, because it already has suicide, drugs, drinking, affairs, like all these dark topics, but then it's still told in like a lighthearted manner.
And people the audiences liked it, but a lot of critics, they were saying like, I read this review, Wilder's frankness was taken as bad taste by many. A director who can crack jokes about suicide attempts is hardly likely to make a coherent film about the human condition. And then he revised it later, and he wrote, what looked like bad taste then now feels like honesty. It's one reason that the movie feels a lot less dated than many of the romantic comedies of the 1950s and early 1960s.
Exactly, because a lot of the movies nowadays, they have that stuff. I mean, movies nowadays don't shy away from any of that kind of topic, but it's the fact that that was done in the 60s when most of your romantic comedies were like just lighthearted. Maybe there was an affair, but they did not talk about committing suicide. She took pills. I mean, she like downed pills and they had to pump her stomach in the movie.
Yeah. And people were just using his apartment to, married men were using his apartment to have sex.
Yeah. Which is like, that was very taboo too, like to kind of talk about that so openly. And
there's some critics that were saying, who have looked back at the film, and I don't think this is exactly true, but they said there's no Jack Lemmon, no Tom Hanks. And I think the Baxter character there weren't that many characters like Jack Lemmon, or I'm sorry, I'm not saying his name, but there were no, like, right. Baxter. There weren't many characters like this in 1960. You had, obviously there was John Wayne crushing it, Cary Grant. You think about Sabrina, movies like that. There were no these like pushover dudes who have to like fight to get the girl.
Most leading men, like you're saying, Cary Grant, Humphrey Bogart, like they were all like very, like even though Humphrey Bogart wasn't like an physically attractive guy, he was very suave and in control and a cool character. Whereas Baxter or Jack Lemmon's character is not cool. He stumbles over his words like I just did. He's just he's almost not like a nerd, but he's very like, I guess, I don't know. I'm just going to go back to just being a pushover, just like letting people kind of walk all over him.
And he's our kind of romantic lead. And there's another person that was like, there's an hour and 20 minutes in that movie when all that's happening is catching the audience up with what's already happened. Like you literally come into a situation and you're learning for an hour and 20 minutes that this guy has an apartment, that his boss is using him, that everyone is having sex in his apartment, that he does it all, the time. There's like no forward momentum. He's just kind of learning what this guy's life is. And that's a really interesting narrative to be told. Yeah. And I think this movie, I think, influenced people in the 60s just with that character. And I know we'll get to it later with what Benjamin Braddock from The Graduate. And they're completely different characters, but it's kind of like the progression to that. So from Jack Lemmon to Dustin Hoffman, this new kind of character opened the door.
Yep. You didn't have a guy who was in control of every situation anymore.
And this movie, some people may feel like it's it's old timey because black and white, blah blah blah. But it still feels really fresh. I watched this about a year ago, and I loved it watching it again. It does not really age for me.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies, and like, I'm not sure why they filmed it in black and white. They didn't have to.
Yeah, Wilder fought it. I remember reading something to where I don't think he wanted to do color yet.
Okay.
Or maybe he felt the aesthetic was better for this movie.
That makes sense, because the movie, I'm trying to think, Sunset Boulevard, that wasn't the one right before this, though. There was another movie I thought he did before The Apartment. No, okay. Yeah, I mean, I know that the Academy at this point had, they had awards for both black and white, like, cinematography, and then also colored cinematography. So they were, like, still in that transition period. So movies were still being in black and white while there's still color. But I thought it was interesting that he went black and white.
I think
for this kind of movie.
I think he did it because I guess he wanted to have the appeal of an old-timey film, but then have, like, different source material, like, have a weird blending of the two.
It's just weird because it makes sense for his movies that are darker, like The Lost Weekend and Sunset Boulevard, but this is a little bit more lighthearted because it's romance.
Yeah, you're right. But
I don't know.
This is like a perfect movie to kick us off, though, with the 60s.
And I do want to say there was one other thing that I found interesting. It's a romantic comedy between Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon, and they don't kiss in the movie once. Even at the very end, spoiler, like when they kind of get together, they don't kiss or anything.
So maybe it still had that not old-timey, 1960s, not old-timey, but it still had that.
I mean, I guess it was weird. Like, it wasn't, no, cause like even Cary Grant movies, they would kiss. It'd be like that kind of old-timey kind of kiss where they just like touch lips.
And then hold it for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, like without moving. But I just thought that was like an interesting thing because usually in romantic comedy, I mean, you hope for them to get together at the end, but like it's not even like a romantic. It's not like they're gonna have sex kind of thing, you know. It's just them getting together. I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
And I love how this. Do you want to jump into 61?
You can take this one because you chose this one.
Yeah. Well, so Breathless was released overseas in 60, but in the United States it was released in February in 1961, so we chose to put Breathless at 1961. And this is a film from Godard that it's a French film that, like Roger Ebert said, like there was Breathless and then there was everything after it. I think it really influenced. So when you look later on in the 60s, with Bonnie and Clyde and a lot of those movies, they all so as soon as this movie came out, there's a book called Pictures at a Revolution. As soon as Breathless hit, so many young filmmakers were like, we got to make Breathless in the States, but we were just so behind, like we were years behind with this film. But Breathless, filmed in black and white, it was made by a former film critic. So it had, I guess it tells the story of this guy named Michel, who, in the beginning, he's in a stolen car. He's driving to Paris, and he is caught by some police, and there's a gun in his car, so he shoots one of the cops. And then he heads to Paris to meet up with, oh gosh, I forget her name.
I forget her name in the movie. Her name in real life was like Jean Seberg. I don't know.
Jean Seberg?
Yeah.
So Michelle goes to Paris, meets up with, let me find her name. Oh, Patricia. And it's just basically him and Patricia hanging out in her apartment, going around town, him stealing cars, him waiting to pick up money while the cops are chasing him. And this was just a movie that was very frank about sex. There was a lot of talk about, having sex and beautiful women. There was
it was crazy, like how often he's like, how many you sleep with, like how many guys and all this kind of stuff. And I thought that was like really forward.
And she counts on like one hand, and he kind of tells her, they kind of just drive around, and he steals cars and beats people up. And what an interesting thing is, this movie felt totally fresh, but since Godard was a film critic in the 1950s, there were so many different touches to Bogart. Like this guy, Michel, wanted to be Bogart.
Yeah.
So you have this totally fresh movie, but it's kind of looking in the past a little bit. embraced like everything that he loved about film, but then he made this totally fresh movie. And I was listening to, this is pretentious, but I have the Criterion Blu-ray, and there's a lot of interviews. And this is one of the first films where the cameramen basically just filmed them like a reality television show. They were just there all the time. They wanted it to feel like the camera was always there, and they could film them on the cheap. Like they were just hanging out people, and it's their life you're watching. And they want, like the actors, as opposed to very heavily scripted and stilted, the actors' performances were very instinctive. And there was a lot of close-ups, which, it's definitely cheaper and easier to make. A lot of the extras in the background were just French people walking by, and you can see in the background, people are just looking at what's going on. And, but then also, it takes a lot of the classic noir, because you have Michel, who's a killer, but he's also a pushover. And in the end, Patricia turns him in, and he stays around. And a lot, she was the kind of femme fatale, less emotional person than Michel was. And it was just this movie. This is going to sound weird, but I feel like Clerks, I know Clerks went off of Slackers, but Clerks and Breathless feel very familiar. Both black and white, both really inspired a lot of people, but they also looked back into other filmmaking, and they were heavily influenced by conversations about Star Wars or Bogey or movies. Mm-hmm. It was, I don't know, I know they're not the same, but it's interesting how both movies really kind of changed the landscape in a little bit, but they both loved old school Hollywood.
And they both have like that low budget. I think this one, I read somewhere it was like $90,000 is what it took to make this film. Yeah. There's a lot of jagged cuts. Like you can kind of see where like it'll cut from one scene to the next, and it's not as like smooth transition like a lot of movies try to do. But it was like, that reminds me of kind of how Clerks is also. Like it's very like, you can tell it's very old school with like the way it's directed and stuff.
Like the jump cuts. And the interesting thing is the movie was 30 minutes too long. So he just like cut things, whole scenes. And he's like, actually, and rather than cut out whole scenes or sequences, he just trimmed within the scene. So created a jagged cutting style so beloved of action filmmakers. Nice. So like he just went at the film with scissors and he cut out anything he thought was boring. And so it's funny that he didn't intentionally mean for these jump cuts, but because he had to cut it down, he made a conscious effort, like a decision. Of course he's conscious, to just cut within the scenes, and that became iconic.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
I think it's like, it's interesting too, because when you watch this movie, like it starts off kind of fast paced. He shot the cop or whatever, but then it kind of slows down for like the middle part, like you were saying, and it's kind of like he's just hanging out with this girl. Wasn't she like his ex-girlfriend?
He met her, like they met while she was on vacation. They had a fling, and then he came and found her again when she was there, and she was waiting to go to an art school. That's why she was hanging out. Right.
So then he like hooks back up with her, but like you said, yeah, she turns him in at the end, and it's just it's a weird. It's like a weird transition throughout, because it's not like a movie that you normally watch. Like if there's like a crime or whatever, like the whole movie is about that crime, but this wasn't. This was like he did this crime, and then it kind of takes its time like developing this character with this girl, and they're just like you're saying, openly talking about sex and relationships and life and all this other stuff. And then it started like then you get like these cuts to that detective or whatever trying to find him the whole time, and then finally catching up with him,
and then shooting him in the back.
Yep.
And interesting.
What was the lip thing?
Bogey.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And then also there's a lot of references to Dashiell Hammett. So when the guy's like, "Hey, you're wearing silk socks with a tweed jacket," like that's a quote from a Dashiell Hammett thing. Nice. And then also one of the lines by Patricia's from Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, cool.
So I don't know. I thought it was. I don't know. I love it. I love how he loved old school cinema so much that he made something totally fresh, but that thing that was fresh loved old school cinema.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, this was part of like their new wave of French films too, like with the 400 Blows and a couple others that came out around the same time.
Yeah, Truffaut made 400 Blows.
Yep.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
And if you're looking at a good documentary, Hitchcock and Truffaut, it's a documentary about their meeting, and it kind of goes over Hitchcock's career. It's really worth a watch. So, if you want to learn about his films in the 60s. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, I don't know, that's my piece about Breathless. And I just think it planted a seed in filmmakers in the US that came to fruition about 5 years later.
Yeah,
So,
I can see that. Like, kind of how he was as the main character. Like, you kind of see that with, like, Bonnie and Clyde and all these other type of, I don't want to say rebellious, but like, you know, like the way they're acting and stuff. It was like a different type of leading character, like we were saying with even Baxter.
You had like James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, who was just like, ah!
Yeah.
And then you had Michel, who's just killing people, and he's like, chill about it. He just wants to go hit on women and steal cars. And he's really nonchalant. And you can actually see a lot of that kind of style in Tarantino's type films, or those crime films, where nonchalant.
Where they kill someone, yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's just nonchalant, kind of relaxed. I don't know, I liked it. And also, I don't know, I thought it was cool because it really opened up a new style of filming with the fly on the wall, almost reality type shooting.
Didn't he, like, feed them the lines, like, sometimes too, just like, cause he was still writing the script?
Yeah, they wrote it every morning.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he would just kind of have them be instinctual or make stuff like, or come up on the cuff, shoot those really long scenes in her apartment. And it's just a really cool experiment that paid off. But you could tell, it kind of reminded me of the movie that came out in 2017 called Columbus. And it's by a first time director, but that director, let me type in his name. This director has done a lot of stuff for Criterion. He's a video essayist and like film historian and really smart man who knows a lot about film. So he made a movie called Columbus about John Cho and Haley Lou Richardson just walking around Columbus, the city with all this amazing architecture, and just kind of talking. And it kind of feels a little bit like Breathless because both of these directors, the guy's name is Kogonada. And I feel like they were both such film historians and so knowledgeable about movies that when they made one of their first features, it was really great because they knew the art of film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so, I mean, I love Columbus if you guys are looking for a really good movie that's kind of pretentious but has great architecture and dialogue. But do you want to jump into 62?
Sure, 1962. Okay, so I'm going to describe it using IMDb. It says, a resourceful British government agent seeks answers in a case involving the disappearance of a colleague and the disruption of the American space program. What movie is this, Mark?
Dr. No?
Yeah, it is. The first James Bond movie came out in 1962.
Oh, gosh.
Which is pretty crazy because it's still going strong.
I mean, it's wild that the decisions made in Dr. No became the template for the rest of Bond films.
Well, and you know what's interesting is it's also like Dr. No is kind of what set up the action movie, because there were action movies before this, but a lot of them were like gangster related kind of stuff. Yeah, like like that kind of gangster movie. This was like the first one where like I read somewhere, because I was doing a lot of research on Bond movies like not too long ago, especially when we did the Bond podcast. But a lot of people went to James Bond movies as kind of an escapist, like an escapism, because he always traveled to like these exotic locales. And a lot of people didn't necessarily travel in those days. Like vacation wasn't like a huge thing for a lot of American people. So when he showed like, in the first one, I read that they did Jamaica. They chose Dr. No, which isn't the first book by Ian Fleming. It's like the sixth one. But they chose that as the first movie because it had like one locale. It was Jamaica, which was still a beautiful location, but he wasn't traveling all over the world like he does in later Bond movies. But they picked that one because it was a little bit easier to shoot. And obviously you have Ursula Andress coming out of the water in her white bikini, which is like iconic at this moment.
I mean, it's got to be one of the top 5 character introduction shots ever.
In movies, yeah, definitely. And then Sean Connery, who wasn't really an actor, embodies this role as a spy. I mean, this was a spy action movie, which was not, this was like the first of its type. I mean, there's some other ones, but this one definitely popularized them.
When you think about some of the classics, like kind of action films with, The Searchers with John Wayne, he's a tortured man. Lawrence of Arabia, kind of a tortured man. So a lot of the heroes back in the day, before Dr. No, they weren't just casual like figures. They weren't to be admired. They
Right.
were tortured souls, or they were dupes who were duped into, a crime by a femme fatale. This was a suave ass, spy who shot, like, that scene in the hotel where he shoots the guy. He shoots the unarmed guy, right?
Right.
Like, they had a problem with him killing him because
Right.
he just did it sort of casually. Like, you've had your six. And then
Yeah.
he just kills him. Like, he didn't let him live. Like, this, it was a brand new kind of character. And like they said, like, dudes were just, like, women, like, on the commentary, they were just like, women wanted to, like, be with James Bond, and men wanted to be James Bond. And you're right, it was really great escapism for the time. It wasn't like, hey, I'm watching this Western, which there are some classics, or I'm watching this film. I'm watching something in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, it was, like, kind of this, like, I heard that Ian Fleming wanted Cary Grant to play James Bond. Like, that's who he imagined playing James Bond. And when I think of Cary Grant, I'm thinking of, like, these old classic movies where he is suave and sophisticated, but he's also, like, a little bit more humanized than Bond, the character.
He's like your dad.
Yeah, he's like a really
like,
nice guy,
yeah.
But he's, like, suave with the ladies, but he's also just a nice guy. But yet, James Bond is not that character. I mean, later on, James Bond gets a little goofier with the Roger Moore roles and stuff like that, but in the beginning, James Bond is just a killer. He's got a license to kill, and that's what he does. Now, they've brought that back. I feel like they're starting to bring that back with the Daniel Craig Bond movies. Like, those are getting a little bit more dark and brooding and more realistic in the sense of, I think, how Ian Fleming imagined it.
And he has a backstory, this Bond.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's cool with Sean Connery. He was just a cool guy who was like, hey, Moneypenny, he's just shooting people.
Yep.
And
he comes on the scene, shoots someone, leaves.
And then they had, people in bed together, which was rare. And the production designer, Ken Adams, he didn't have much of a budget, but I thought this was really interesting. With his sets that he created, he wanted to have lots of space, which I think is, and if you watch the later Bond films with casinos, with various sets, they're very expansive, and there is a lot of space in them. So it's not like some of them aren't totally cramped. And I feel like that's a very, like, it was because of budget, but this simple idea he had about creating an open area where there's still a lot of people, where he's gambling and everything, to have that, like, I don't know, I love one idea from one genius production designer went on to become like a lot of different sets, and Dr. No's lair, like that.
Right.
Like the dude.
Well, I like the bigger sets because the bigger sets, I think that's something with a lot of the older movies because they were shot on sets like in warehouses and stuff like that. They were very small scale. Like you had the characters and then you had like maybe the wall behind them and a typewriter or whatever it was, but it wasn't as expansive. Like you didn't get to see everything. Even like some of the movies we're going to talk about later on, you can tell that they're on a set. But like in this, they shot on location for some of the Jamaica stuff, and then also, like you're saying, the bigger areas, adding for a lot of space.
Like in later films, Pinewood in England, they had a massive studio that was reserved for James Bond.
Oh wow!
Like
that's awesome.
The massive layers in that, those were all big sets built on the same studio, and actually Event Horizon built a massive set on there too. But yeah, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so I mean. I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool with the villain, too. He kind of knows everything, and a lot of people don't really like that Joseph Wiseman they call him, like, yellow face. But
yeah, because he was an Asian, they Asianed him up a little bit.
But at the time, because, at the time, they're like, well, obviously we should have done this, but they needed someone with, like, gravitas and a name to act alongside Bond, and sadly, they didn't think there was actors that were well-known enough to be with Connery. That doesn't make it right, but that was just their decision.
Hey, look at Breakfast at Tiffany's. They did the same thing with Mickey Rooney, so...
I mean, both of them are not right, but...
Right, I know.
That one in Breakfast at Tiffany's is like 100 times worse.
Oh, 100 times. At least, like, he didn't go... Yeah, Joseph Wiseman's character wasn't, like, ridiculous, you know what I mean?
It was like it wasn't insulting. The one in Breakfast at Tiffany's, holy shit, that was I can't. But yeah, I mean, they say Dr. No rewired popular culture. And that really carried through in the 60s.
Yeah.
Americans didn't really have that many movies like this, though, which is pretty interesting. Like, were there, like, I guess did they try to kind of recreate this in the 60s?
What, the kind of like the action-y type guy, like the...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, you had, let me think, there was 6 James Bond movies within the 60s.
Yeah.
I think like it kind of had, because they released From Russia with Love the next year, then then Goldfinger, then Thunderball came out in I think 65, 66, and then you had You Only Live Twice, and then On Her Majesty's Secret Service with a new James Bond in 69. So I mean, you had like, I think he kind of cornered the market at this point, like James Bond with the action. I mean, this kind of action movie. Granted, you could talk about Bonnie and Clyde, you can talk about The Wild Bunch, Western actions, you can talk about that kind of stuff, but I mean, spy thrillers. I mean, just I think just action movies in general. I mean, James Bond kind of started them all, really popularized them, and then now look, 50 years later, and Skyfall still raked in 1.6 billion or whatever it was.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't like Spectre, and it still made $880 million.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's still going strong.
Like, I'm gonna buy the 75th anniversary Blu-ray collection, even though I have the 50th.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, yeah. So I don't know. I think
I'm hoping to live long enough for the 100th. If I can live that long, that'd be awesome.
I'm gonna do it.
Just to stick around for the James Bond 100th anniversary.
Oh, that'd be pretty sweet. So it's kind of cool. The 3 movies we've covered so far are completely different, but they all had a big effect on. I mean, even now, I feel like they're felt. So I think that's pretty cool. You want to jump into 63?
Yeah, we'll do 63. 63, we chose The Great Escape. Now, The Great Escape is a POW war film, but it has a huge cast. Huge cast. Like, especially for the time, you have Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, Richard Attenborough, James Garner, Donald Pleasance from the Halloween movies, James Coburn. I mean, there's way more, but for the 60s, I mean, they brought in a lot of people. It kind of reminds me of, kind of what they did with like The Longest Day.
Yep.
When they like got like this huge cast. But like the way they did this, like a POW, Stalag 17, which was also directed by Billy Wilder, who did The Apartment, is one of my favorite POW films. But this one was like on an epic scale. I mean, this movie, Great Escape, was 3 hours, I think.
Yep.
3 hours long, maybe a little longer. I don't remember exactly. But it was also like the way it was done. It's kind of weird. It had a lighthearted tone through, this is what I saw with it. It was like this lighthearted tone, like even with the music, which was reminiscent of like earlier movies. But then it also took a darker tone, especially like near the end, which I thought was kind of like bridging the gap between like later 60s films.
Yeah, and it I think it almost, not directly, but absolutely covered one of our later films that we're going to talk about. I don't want to wreck it. But, what do you think is the most iconic shot of Great Escape?
All right. Well, I think most people are going to say the motorcycle chase.
Do you know how that came about?
Wasn't it improvised?
Well, McQueen wanted more to do. Steve McQueen was incredibly jealous of James Garner's sweater, and because Garner looks awesome in this movie. Mm-hmm. So he was bummed that he was in the clink most of the time, McQueen, so he wanted more to do. So they just gave him a semi-pointless motorcycle chase. But that chase became freaking iconic.
Yeah, it's like that's what's on the cover of the DVD and Blu-rays.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, he just wanted something cool to do.
I mean, it's kind of cool because like at that point, it's where he escapes with a bunch of the other characters and they all kind of go their separate ways. And that was kind of his thing, which I wonder like, what was originally intended for him?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Cause like, was he going to get captured regardless? Like his character? Which, by the way, I just realized, like, I knew that Captain Hiltz was, like, a name that I knew from, like, an older film, but I didn't remember which one. But I used that name in one of the fictional podcasts I do. And then I realized, like, watching this again, The Great Escape, that's Captain Hiltz is Steve McQueen's character in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I didn't realize that. I'm like, oh, because I have a Captain Hilt in Atlas Avenue Beat, which is the film noir spoof that I do. And, like, I made a character, and I was like, I almost named him Captain Hicks because of Aliens.
Yeah.
That was Michael Biehn's character. But I was like, no, Captain Hiltz sounds a little bit better. And then I was like, but what movie is that from? And I never went and checked it out. But now I just realized today that that's Steve McQueen. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So that was so ingrained in you, you just kind of made that decision.
Yeah, I knew it was from something. I knew I was taking it from something, but I just didn't remember where.
So I found a cool article from the Telegraph, and they're saying, so McQueen on Magnificent Seven, he did Wanted Dead or Alive in the 50s, and then he did Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner. And if you watch, my buddy Dave told me this, who I worked with a bunch of years on at Comic-Cons, and he was always telling me the story about how in the background McQueen would, like, he would never sit still. He'd always be tinkering with something to draw more attention to him when Yul Brynner was talking.
Oh my God.
And so for one of the first times, McQueen had power. And so they're saying such were the crises that McQueen's agent had to fly over to Germany to smooth things over. McQueen had power for the first time in his life, Adam says. He was jealous of James Garner, who was very handsome in character with his white sweater. McQueen was upset about that sweater, so upset that he demanded a costume swap, according to Adams. The production people said, we'll get Garner to change into a sweatshirt and you can wear the jumper. Eventually McQueen calmed down and the swap never took place.
Wow.
But you know what, though? Like, I was reading an interview, and a lot of these characters on this film didn't like each other. Bronson was very forward. Bronson ended up stealing one of the other actors' wives on this film. Everybody on this movie, they're all trying to, like, outcool each other.
Yeah, because, I mean, like I said, you have a huge cast, and all these are, like, A-listers at the time. So I can see that.
But I think that really helped the movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, everyone was just being cool. It was... Like, this movie is really cool.
Well, you know what's weird? Like, when I think about it, too, is, like, it kind of reminds me, and bear with me as I explain this, but kind of how the new Avengers movie is going to be, in the sense that you have all these characters, and you want to give the right amount of screen time to each one, so it makes it worth it. Like, you have Spider-Man and Iron Man, and everyone's like, oh, this movie's going to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. I hope they give enough time and, you know, flesh out the story and the characters and give everybody their due. And that's kind of, I feel like, how The Great Escape was, in the sense that everybody wanted their screen time, and you had everybody, like, all these A-listers. It's like, you're paying big money to get all these actors. You want to make sure they all have something to do, and they all have individual characteristics, and they all have the right amount of screen time to make it worth your while.
That'd be funny if this movie was originally like an hour and 40 minutes. And then
yeah, and they added all that.
But you know what I think this works, though, is the actors cared so much, and maybe their egos got involved, but because of that, their scenes that were added made them really cool. It's not like the director or writer was like, I'll just give them some scenes so they're in the movie. Like, so these scenes that they got, I believe, were fought for. They weren't just shoehorned in.
And it's like I said, like, later on, because, like, the first half of the movie is pretty much them building these tunnels, Tom, Dick, and Harry, and trying to get out. And it takes a long time to get there, and they all have, like, their different individual roles for how it's going to go down when they do finally escape. And then when they do escape, like, the movie's not done there. It's, like, showing each one and how they either get out or get recaptured or get killed. And actually, not to spoil things, but when Richard Attenborough gets killed, like, that blew me away.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Like, they just pulled up, like, that truck, pulled down the machine gun, and just, like, murdered all those people right there.
Yeah, and I think you're really right. If you think about The Bridge on the River Kwai, that's a great film, but there wasn't too much humor to it, and it ended on, like, a big-time downer note. But then this is kind of like this similar type film, but completely different, and it's a neat logical progression, and then it ends tragically.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. You get to like all these characters, and then a lot of them get murdered.
I remember, like, the first time I watched it was probably, like, 10 years ago. But, like, I remember watching it and, like, thinking, like, when they actually did escape, I was kind of surprised that the movie was still going. And then, like, showing them how they're, like, because just because they got out of that camp didn't mean that they were actually, like, free. Like, they had to, like, still get on trains, find Donald Pleasance and James Garner had to find that plane. I mean, it was like, they still had to get out of the country, which was not easy.
And, like, you can't just get out of prison, and then once you're off the ground, you're like, aha.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, you're right. And, I want that sweater now. I might just have to go buy it.
Just get a motorcycle.
Oh, no, I can't. I've wiped out on mopeds, dirt bikes, motorcycles, man. I can't do any of those things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would not look as cool as Steve McQueen on that. You
wouldn't be able to jump barbed wire fences?
No, and you know, there's a thing. McQueen and all the people on set, they all thought they could jump that. And he was mad that, like, you know, the jump wasn't attempted or made, like, or the jump was made, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he made it though.
But then, like, I guess the actors said they later did it, and they all, like, James Coburn and all of them said that they made the jump on the motorcycle.
Oh, really?
Themselves.
What?
Yeah. Those guys are so full of shit and, like,
I gotta see proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were cameras there. Let's see it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I thought this was a really good pick on your end because, like you said, I think it told an old story in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the people who made films years later were directly kind of influenced by it. And also, it's said about Steve McQueen's version of cool. He was the definition of cool.
And like The Apartment, it kind of had that blend of, there were some lighthearted moments, but then there's really some dark moments in the film.
All right, want to jump to 64?
Yeah, I'll let you introduce this one.
All right, this is my second favorite movie of all time.
Next,
Yep, next to Jaws. And
nice.
I watched it again recently to kind of get ready for this, and this movie never gets old. It's like Spam. It never expires.
Right, or a Twinkie.
Yeah, it's like a Twinkie. There we go. It's like a Twinkie. It never expires. This movie, I mean, I guess especially in the age we're in, like it makes, I don't know, with like a lot of the problems with North Korea and all that, and then this was supposed to be kind of a take on the Cold War and just the absurdity of the Doomsday Machine, but it's Dr. Strangelove, directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Who's that?
I mean, oh gosh, I love that guy. I mean, he's made 2000.
Some of the best.
Yeah. It also features probably one of my top 3 performances of all time from Peter Sellers. He plays Dr. Strangelove, Group Captain Lionel Mandrake, and President Merkin Muffley.
Yeah.
And it's just, so it basically tells a story of a general called Jack Ripper goes a little crazy, and he thinks that his essence is being stolen by what is it in the water?
Like fluoride or?
Yeah, fluoride in the water.
Yeah.
So there was a time where a general could launch a nuclear attack without the president having to do it, just because there was like a bylaw. So he launches this all-out attack to go blow up Russia. And it's about, but the problem is, if they attack Russia, they have a doomsday machine which will destroy the world. So you have all these Americans in the war room, and then you have another at the base with Jack Ripper. So it's basically 3 locations. It's one bomber, it's a huge war room, and then it's a base. Where the general ordered the bombing. And what follows is just absurdity. So you have President Muffley, of course that's his name, because, you know, a lot of people's names in this movie were kind of crazy. He gets on the phone with the Russian premier. It's just one of my favorite exchanges of all time, and Peter Sellers made up a lot of it. So he's trying to tell this Russian premier that all these bombers are coming towards him. He's like, hey, can you turn down the music? Like, he has to ask the guy to, like, turn down the music. And it's just one of the, I mean, it's played totally straight. Like, he told the guy, Slim Pickens, right? The guy who played Kong and James Earl Jones in The Bomber, that they were doing a drama. So you have
Oh, really?
Yeah. So all those guys in the airplane thought they were making this World War, or like this massive drama. So they played it as seriously as possible. But then you have Peter Sellers, German scientist, Dr. Strangelove with his crazy hand. You have a scene where they finally get the codes from Jack Ripper, because Ripper killed himself because he's just a wimp, and he doesn't have enough change to call the president, so he tells this guy to shoot a coin machine, but the guy refuses to do it because it's government property.
It was a soda machine.
Yeah, a soda machine, and he's like, well, that's government property. And it's just the most absurd movie. And, you know, there's like, these 2 guys are having an argument in the war room, and there's no fighting in the war room. And it's just one of the funny, you can still feel it in movies like Veep or In the Loop or The Death of Stalin. This kind of film, you know, American critics hated it. They were like, oh, like, they were thinking, you know, this is going to make us look stupid. They said that,
But that's, go ahead.
Oh, he said no communist could dream of a more effective anti-American film to spread abroad than this one. United States officials, including the president, had better take a look at this one to see its effect on the national interest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, people were thinking it was anti-American, but he really nailed the tone of this film, Kubrick did. And a lot of directors like Joel and Ethan Cohen, Barry Sonnenfeld, they really got their tone from this movie. It's like absolutely deadpan serious, and Kubrick kind of trusts his viewers to find the comedy. Like when Sellers tells the Russian premier to turn down the music. There is no like, haha. Like there's just absurdity in this. And also George C. Scott in this movie didn't want to go as big as he did, but Kubrick tricked him. And he's like, well, just give me one broad take. And then he would do it. George C. Scott, and then Kubrick used all those. And George C. Scott wouldn't talk to Kubrick for years.
Oh my God.
So you just have these like, I mean, there was no movie before this where the president and officials just looked like bozos. And I mean, everyone was kind of played for an idiot, but the tone of this movie inspired so many things.
Yeah, I mean, you're like labeling it as a comedy, but like you're saying, it's like a dark comedy. It's not like a laugh out loud, somebody's getting hit in the head with a frying pan, which could actually also happen, but it's not like that kind of thing. It's like played so straight. It kind of reminds me of like, not to say that it's like Naked Gun or any of those kind of movies, but like Leslie Nielsen in those movies, he's reading like the lines straight, even though they're ridiculous. And that's kind of how this movie is as a whole. It's all these people, and every once in a while you get like this line that's just ridiculous. Or like Peter Sellers, he'll be talking about like important stuff, but his hand's going crazy. And then like there's even a scene where like Peter Bull, who plays the Russian ambassador who's in that council or whatever, like shows up to that council meeting, like he's there and he's in the front of like all the people around Peter Sellers, and you can see him almost laughing at Peter Sellers, kind of like his hand going crazy as Dr. Strangelove or whatever. So it's like that. I think they knew, like some of them had to know, like some of it was ridiculous, but like you're saying, even with George C. Scott, I think the part where he trips and falls and then just gets back up and starts talking again, like that was like actually happened. Like he fell and Stanley Kubrick decided to keep that in there. So like that's, I don't know, there's just like some interesting takes, but that's Kubrick. I mean, Kubrick knows what he wants.
And at the end, they're talking about building tunnels and cave systems to live in during the nuclear fallout. And then George Scott's like, we cannot lose on the cave race. Like there's a nuclear arms race, and then they didn't want to fall behind in the cave race. And an interesting fact is Ken Adams, who designed the sets for Dr. No and a lot of the Bond films, designed the war room in Dr. Strangelove. Wow. And if you look at a lot of war rooms like that now, cavernous rooms, they basically are the Dr. Strangelove set.
Right.
So I thought that was really kind of cool that one guy developed pretty much some of the most influential sets of all time in a span of 2 years.
Just looking at James Bond movies, whenever you look at like an evil set, it's always like a huge area like that with like maps of like a country and dots on it and like little blinking lights. Like that was the first like 6 James Bond movies.
Yeah. And this is another thing, but I found out the connection between sex and war is established immediately. The opening credits show its Air Force jets refueling in flight, like 2 mechanical creatures doing it in midair with sweet strains of a love song. The songs Try a Little Tenderness on the soundtrack. The title character, who is not found in the novel, has a name suggesting not just sex, but deviant sex. And many of the other characters' names also have sexual connotations. Jack D. Ripper, after Jack the Ripper who killed prostitutes. Captain Lionel Mandrake, a plant used as an aphrodisiac. General Buck Turgidson. Turgid means swollen or distended. President Merkin Muffley. A merkin is a pubic wig, a muff. And then Russian the ambassador, Alexei de Sadetsky, suggests the Marquis de Sade. Yeah. But, and like no one really picked up on it until a critic several months later, and Kubrick was like, I applaud you.
Oh, nice.
So here's like this silly movie with all these weird like sexual jokes and improv and silliness, but it's told dead straight.
Right.
And
that's the genius of it, though.
Yeah, and that's one of the first of its kind to do that. And I mean, you look at like Airplane and movies like that. Obviously, they take more of a comedic thing, but you can see the influence in this film here as it was in those later movies.
Mm-hmm. Especially like you mentioned the Coen brothers. Like I think of like most of the Coen brothers are that dark comedy.
Yeah.
Like Fargo and even their remake of The Lady Killers and Tolerable Cruelty and
just play it straight.
Yeah.
It's dude, I have a huge smile on my face. Sorry if I jumped on you a couple times when we were talking about Dr. Strangelove, but this movie makes me so happy.
I do want to say something that I noticed with Stanley Kubrick. Like Stanley Kubrick is considered, one of the greatest directors of all time. But like there's something I just realized, like even though he wrote a lot of his screenplays, right? If not all of them?
Yeah.
Okay. But a lot of his movies are adaptations of books. And I always thought that that was interesting. Like, these weren't original screenplays. He was, like, adapting these, because this was based on a book called Red Alert.
Yep.
And then, The Shining was obviously Stephen King, Lolita,
Spartacus.
I'm trying to think what else. Spartacus, yeah. Paths of Glory.
Yeah.
Paths of Glory. I thought that was interesting that he's not necessarily, like, he's a great writer and everything and a great director, but it was, like, interesting to me that he took a lot of, like, these ideas that were already there and kind of adapted them so well to the screen rather than writing original works.
Look at Fincher, right? Fight Club.
Mm-hmm. That's true, yeah.
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, even Mindhunters.
Yeah. Which is, like, isn't that, like, I just think that that's interesting. It's like, cause, like, Tarantino, you know, he writes all this stuff. Granted, he takes a lot of liberties from, like, older cinema.
The good,
also.
the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I get that, but he, like, writes original stuff. And I'm not saying that this is, like, a jab at Stanley Kubrick or anything, but, like, he's just, like, a master storyteller at, like, taking someone else's material and adapting it to the screen better than a lot of other people. This
is going to sound crazy, and I just thought about it, and I'm not going to say it's a lack of, like, creativity, but maybe Fincher and they're brilliant on every level, but maybe they're such auteurs behind the camera with their production and takes and set design that they kind of need a blueprint, like, they kind of need something to adapt from because they're more focused on
visual. Yeah. I think it's more visual for them, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense because even Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is one of my favorite movies, but that I've also read the book, and all he did was take, like, really one aspect of the book and really expand upon it, and that's why Stephen King didn't really like it, because he left out a lot of stuff. But I think it works. I think it works as a movie. Trust me, I saw the miniseries based on Stephen King's The Shining with Steven Weber, and it was not that great. Yeah.
That's our boy, though, man. Steven Weber.
That is our boy. I wanted to like it. I wanted to.
He's the movies, films, and flicks spirit animal, Steven Weber.
He should be. Dude, yeah, listen, I know this is movies, films, and flicks, but if you ever review Wings, let me know.
We should do every episode. Just do, like, a quick, like, for each episode's 22 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So we should just do a 22-minute pod for each episode.
There you go. Piece of cake.
Wings is on Netflix.
It is. I watched it a while back. After I watched Cheers, I watched Wings.
You and I could probably knock out 3 episodes in an hour and 6 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think? Something to think about?
Yeah, we'll think about it after this podcast.
Sounds good. So we're going to talk about it during the break, and we'll be back in just 1 second. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. We're going to do it, Robert.
What? What are we doing?
We are going to record a Wings podcast.
Yeah, we are. A Wings podcast because we're such huge Steven Weber and Amy Asbeck fans.
Yeah, I mean, their work, and we're earnest about this too, though. Like, we're not doing this to be cute. Like, we're big Steven Weber fans.
Hey, I take my Steven Weber very serious. Okay.
So look for it in the near future, the Wings podcast.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Oh, this is gonna be good. All right, so we'll jump into a quick listener question here, and this is from Zach, and we were talking about kind of sequels and upcoming films, and he wrote, "What are your thoughts about Super Troopers 2?"
Okay, so I remember telling you this before we started recording that people probably won't like my answer too much.
Hot take.
And that's because I was never a real big fan of Super Troopers 1. I don't know what it was, and maybe it was like the syndrome where, like, everybody told me to watch Forrest Gump. I finally watched Forrest Gump. It was okay. Wasn't that great, but maybe it's because all that build up was kind of the same thing with Super Troopers. Everybody was like, watch Super Troopers. It's hilarious. Watch it. And I watched it. I chuckled a few times. It was okay. I'm glad I saw it, but it wasn't something that stuck with me. And the humor for me just wasn't the same as, like, the humor that I like. Like, it wasn't slapsticky enough and goofy enough, like Naked Gun, but I also like movies like Anchorman and stuff. I don't know. It didn't vibe with me. So I wasn't a huge fan. But now Super Troopers 2 is coming out, and I know a lot of people are excited for it. So I watched the trailer. I'm like, I get it. Like, that's cool. Like, there'll probably be some funny moments in the movie. But I honestly think it's a product of its time, and I don't think people are going to like it as much as they did the first one.
I think sequels that so if you look at Joe Dirt 2, Zoolander 2, movies that Boondock Saints 2, I love Blade Runner 2049, but movies direct sequels, second films that are released 10 years after the original because the original is a cult classic.
Yeah.
They are rarely they're never as loved as
Right.
the first film. And I guess the first film, when they make it, they don't know that their film's going to make a cultural impact. They're not going to be self-conscious. They just make a movie. So when you make a second one that fans love, you kind of think, you aren't thinking about the characters, you're just kind of turning them up to 11. And what was funny can't really be recreated. Part of me, I love these guys. Like, so you and I had a different experience. I was working in a theater in 2001 and, no one went to the theaters in 2001. 2011. No, 2001, September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. So no one went to the theaters. 2011. I can't believe I thought that. 2001, no one went to the theater. So when I watched Super Troopers, nobody went to watch it. And I did the screening on a Thursday night for it, the night before it came out. And I was like, I love this movie. So my experience with it was nobody watched it. So I became like, you gotta see it. Like, I became that guy to you because I saw that no one saw it when it first came out. And then what I like most about the Broken Lizard crew is with Club Dread, Beer Fest, Slam and Salmon, their movie Puddle Cruiser, I'm a big movie nerd, and they always do two commentaries. They split up their Broken Lizard crew like 3 and 2, and they do two commentaries for the films. And I just read Jay Chandrasekhar's book about like the direction, how it got made. And I don't know, I really like that these guys, I'm not going to say they're like Kevin Smith, but they were just a bunch of dudes in a college who made like a film while they were made a film, and then that got success. Like, so they always struggled, but they kind of did it themselves. So I just really like Super Troopers. And I just kind of worry about this movie because I just hope it's not turned up to 11, basically. And it's just, hey, as opposed to creating funny situations, they think having funny people on the screen is enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still going to watch it, but I'm just not too hyped up about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, go in with some reserve just in case, because like if you like the first one a lot, that's kind of how I felt. Like I was surprised. Like I still liked Anchorman 2, but there were some moments in Anchorman 2 that felt like either a rehash of the first one, like trying to capture that, or trying to throw in a little bit more ridiculousness. And like, but the thing I liked about Anchorman 2 was it still had a grounded story, which I feel like a lot of sequels later on are just trying to capitalize on that first one.
No, I agree. And hey, if you watch Anchorman 2 during the big fight scene, when you look at the taxi cabs in the background, I was one of the guys who was getting all the people into the cars and dealing with all the taxi cabs.
Oh, really?
And we only had 40, and we had to make an entire, like, square block look like it was packed.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So at first, like, we didn't really know how to control them, so we'd have this massive group of taxis, and nothing, then a massive group of taxis, and then we kind of learned to spread them out. That's just another unwarranted, pretentious story I have.
Nice.
But, yeah, I mean, no, I think you're right, and it looks like it's funny, and I'm gonna watch it, but I don't know. I guess I have some reserve, like, I'm a little reserved about it. And, like, I like the, Veronica Mars movie. We did the Kickstarter on that. And I don't know, the movie didn't feel as good as the TV show. Like, it just felt like it didn't feel as fresh, I guess. It felt like it was, I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm sure our Wings podcast will be better.
Yeah. If Steven Weber was in Super Troopers 2, I would definitely be first in line to see it.
Yeah, if he was like Rob Lowe's character. Mm-hmm. Like the Canadian Mountie deputy chief. Oh, what a good
he could be a Canadian.
Yeah, and he was in iZombie, which was created by the guy who did Veronica Mars.
Was he?
Yep.
I never saw that.
What are your thoughts about that?
I want to see it now. I'm definitely going to see it. I'm looking up Steven Weber right now, even though I know we're about to move on and talk about something else. So,
you know that Steven Weber's grandfather wrote the music for Sound of Music.
Really?
No.
Don Weber?
Don Weber, yeah, Don Weber.
Sweet.
Yeah, Sound of Music. Third highest grossing movie domestically with inflation of all time.
That's all. That like shocks me.
And it had the #1 album in the UK for 3 years in a row during Beatlemania.
Holy crap.
This was your pick. Do you want to jump into it since I stole it from you a little bit?
Yeah, I picked this one mainly because, well, hold on, let me bring my notes over. So basically, Sound of Music came out in 1965. The thing with Sound of Music is, like you're saying, it's the third highest grossing film of all time, adjusted for inflation. What's number 2? Titanic?
Star Wars.
Okay, Star Wars. Gone with the Wind is number 1.
Yeah, Gone with the Wind, and then Star Wars, I believe.
After Sound of Music.
Yeah.
That's crazy that Sound of Music was more than Star Wars. It came out 10 years earlier, or 12 years.
Yeah, so,
wow.
Not worldwide, domestic.
Okay. Yeah, but, well, movies in general, like, I like people bring up Gone with the Wind being the highest with, adjusted for inflation or whatever. It, like, made 1.6 billion, like, in America or whatever, or the United States, like, if you adjust for inflation. But that makes sense because there weren't really TVs at the time. So, like, people went out to the cinema to get away, like, to go watch something. But, you know, TVs came a big thing, like, for Sound of Music and, Star Wars. I guess those movies still just brought people out to the theaters.
And, the theaters, they were in the theaters for much longer. So Gone with the Wind, you know what, I guess, the top 5 domestic of all time with inflation is Gone with the Wind, Star Wars, Sound of Music, E.T., and Titanic.
Oh, wow.
But, so what I find most interesting about Sound of Music is how it was like a sign of the times, because big studios were still pushing for, like, you know, West Side Story was 61. In the 60s, they used to do these thing called road shows where they would rent out massive auditoriums. People would put on suits and ties, and they would go watch 3-hour-long movies with intermissions at a very swanky ballroom. So studios still wanted to keep this whole idea of prestige, roadshow, go to theaters and watch films kind of movies. And it's kind of interesting how that was starting to kind of phase out in the 60s. But because of Sound of Music, it gave the roadshow extra legs. So when you look at 67, the Best Picture nominees were like In the Heat of the Night, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Bonnie and Clyde, The Graduate, and Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah.
So it was interesting how they were kind of phasing away from this kind of roadshow picture, really mass theater, get dressed up. But that movie really kind of kept studios playing those movies until the end of the 60s.
Well, the thing about musicals is, like, you know, you go to Broadway to watch musicals on the stage, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody's in New York. Not everyone's in one of these, like, high market areas. So to, like, see a movie based on something like that is, like you're saying, it's you get dressed up and you go. And then to have the intermission is kind of like how a regular play would be, is having that intermission, you know? And, like, I think it when you have a movie that's as epic as that, and even, like, you can even go, like, Lord of the Rings and any kind of, like, those epic feel type movies, like, it becomes more of, like, it's more than just going to watch a movie. It's like going to experience something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, oh, shoot, what was I going to say? So you rewatched this recently, right?
Yeah, because the first time I watched it was, like, in middle school, and then I just watched it again just this past week. And I liked it.
You know what? You know what strikes me about it? It's fairly simply filmed, and the kids aren't really brats. It's more focused on, like, the music, and the sets aren't too, like, I don't know, they don't feel too extravagant, and there's some, like, ambiguity at the ending, some sadness, but it's like it focuses a lot on the music. And I know it's a musical, but they kind of let the music happen, if that makes sense. Like,
but for me, it was weird because I didn't realize that they, like, replay a lot of the songs, like, throughout the movie, which, like, musicals don't always do that. Like, they don't always have, like, the same song repeated throughout. Like, she sings, like, that Do Re Mi, like, a few times, and, like, the kids sing it, and then the Sound of Music they sing a couple of times, and then it's also, like, the music in the background playing while they're, like, in a scene or something.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they, like, I mean, I don't know, I don't watch a ton of musicals, but I don't remember that being, like, a thing. Like, usually when I remember a musical, I remember them singing, like, a certain song at one point, and then it kept going, and then they sing another song. But this one, they actually replayed a lot of the songs, like, throughout the movie.
I mean, it's smart, right?
Yeah, you don't have to write as many songs.
Like, and you know what's crazy? studios were still kind of clinging to like G movies. And have you seen the effect with The Greatest Showman this year?
No.
Like this, oh, I haven't, like, it's just made tons of money and people love the soundtrack and it's a PG musical.
Oh, wow.
So it didn't do well its opening weekend, but it made a lot of money after it, even though it's kind of a weird story. But it's kind of interesting how families and people can still hold on to the sound of music. I mean, it doesn't really feel dated.
Nah, I don't think so. And most of those songs I knew, like, they're just, like, ingrained, like, in just pop culture.
Yeah. I don't know. I like how they staged it. It showcased the music really well. And it was just a simple film. And Christopher Plummer was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And like he hated it for years, and then recently he was like, "Yeah, I was being a dick about it." He's like, "It's not as bad as I said."
No, and like you're saying, it's interesting because it does have a darker tone near the end, but it does feel like kind of like it's a weird movie because like the problems that arise or that you think are going to arise, like maybe the kids are brats, which they are kind of brattish in the beginning, but then like they quickly fall for Julie Andrews' character. So then, like, then it's all good, but then she has to kind of deal with Christopher Plummer not liking the way that she's raising the kids and not enforcing his rules. But then like, the next problem is that she, like, realizes that she's falling in love with him, and then she leaves, and then she comes back, and then he has to kind of figure out, like, it's just, like, there's, like, one problem after the other. It's not, like, one overarching problem.
Huh.
And then the Nazi stuff comes in, like, more into play later on. There's, like, some hints at it with, like, that one kid who delivers the letters and stuff, but it's not really, like, a big thing until, like, the second half after the intermission, and that's when it gets into, like, the whole we gotta get out of here situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
I just love that in 65, this movie was still so massive. So even though you have this massive kind of counterculture vibe going on in the swinging 60s, people just love this film. And I don't, people like to hate on it, but I think people loved it because it was actually good.
And I agree with you for, like, the simplicity of it too. But also I will say that the helicopter shot in the beginning or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought that was kind of surprising for, like, that kind of, well, one film and for that decade.
That was a gangster shot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a lot of talent made that movie. And what Julie Andrews was, like, crushing it at the time.
Well, Mary Poppins came out the year before.
Yep. And she won an Oscar for that, right?
And they cast her for this, I think, before even Mary Poppins came out.
Oh, wow.
Because I remember she was singing, there's something about her singing, Supercalifragilistic on the set with the kids, like, in between takes. And they thought she just made it up, but it was from, Mary Poppins.
Oh, I wish I could do something like that.
Yeah.
This dude's a genius.
Yeah, right? He just made it up on the spot.
I just kind of love that this movie, it was like really interesting. It really kept the studio musical prestige roadshow picture alive. And it kind of carried it into this time in the late 60s when Wild Bunch was happening and all these kind of films.
Exactly. Here's a PG movie that's, like, the highest grossing.
Yep. And I don't remember my mom, like, I owned tons of movies as a kid, but I remember the only movie my mom bought was Sound of Music, the double VHS. Like, people just, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, people just love the Gone with the Wind, or not Gone with the Wind,
people love Gone with the Wind too, though.
Yeah, people love
Yeah. But we'll do that on our 30s podcast.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Go really deep.
30 for 30 and try to pack it into one podcast?
Oh my god. One sentence per movie.
3 films from each year?
Yeah.
So moving into 66, do you want to jump on this bad boy?
Yeah, I'll do this one. This is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is, again, we're talking about a lot of epics. Like, I feel like a lot of these movies are really long films, like Sound of Music, even My Fair Lady, which was another musical that was released in the 60s with Audrey Hepburn. And then also, like, The Great Escape we were talking about. This is another epic, but it's an epic western, but filmed in Italy, because it's a spaghetti western, directed by Sergio Leone. Leone, right?
Yep.
Okay. And basically, yeah, it's about a good guy, a bad guy, and an ugly guy. It's the Man with No Name trilogy, this is like the third one after A Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. Which is the Man with No Name is Clint Eastwood. And basically the movie kind of tells the tale of these three guys that are trying to find this big payoff of money. And it's buried in the desert somewhere in a tombstone, but they're all trying to find it. And they kind of just keep crossing paths. And none of them are like really, even like Clint Eastwood, who's I guess like supposed to be the good, is like, he's not really like a good guy. Yeah, he's still out for himself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's nicer than Lee Van Cleef's character or Eli Wallach's character, but this movie, the way that it's told, which again, The Wild Bunch came out in 69?
Yeah.
So it was after this, Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch. This one kind of, I feel like the spaghetti westerns in general really started turning the tides of the western genre, because the western genre was John Wayne. It was just John Wayne. And I mean, obviously you had Gregory Peck and some other, James Stewart and stuff, but it was like that kind of John Wayne feel where it was like this American hero who does something, whether it's fight bandits or fight Indians or fight this or whatever it is. But it's like this good guy. You knew who the good guy was and all that kind of stuff and what he was trying to do.
High Noon.
But that was the thing. High Noon is actually one of those movies that actually came out that was like a spin, where John Wayne didn't like High Noon because even though you knew who the lead character was and what he was fighting for and stuff, John Wayne always said that the villagers or whatever in the townspeople would stick by their sheriff. And it's like, not all the time would that happen.
Yeah, he was like, they're a bunch of bitches.
Yeah, like that wouldn't happen. That's not realistic. It's like, okay, so you were alive the whole time during the Western, you know that every town would be like that. Come on.
Like
but John Wayne had his idea of like what a Western should be.
And he didn't really like this movie because there was a time when they were like, hey, in the Shootist, they wanted John Wayne to shoot a guy in the back. And he's like, I'm not shooting anybody in the back. He's like, I'm not Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And can I ask you a question? When you watch like Robert Rodriguez and when you watch Tarantino, alright, so let's say you watch their movies without seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly first. But then you watch Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Does it make you think a little bit less about Tarantino's films?
I mean, I think he's obviously taking a lot of liberties with like using, I mean, he even uses, Ennio Morricone's music, in Kill Bill, like that Sting or whatever it is. Like he uses that. And the thing is, like, I don't know. I think they take, I don't know. It's their love of cinema. Yeah, I mean,
I guess that's a weird question, but then you think about like Reservoir Dogs when you have the three people standing in a triangle.
Yeah, which is exactly like The Good and the Bad. I think The Good and Bad, the Ugly, the ending is one of my favorite endings to a movie. Like that whole final stare down.
Yep.
And then the shooting and everything, like that was like, that standoff was intense. And all it is 5 minutes of them just staring at each other.
I think one of my favorite shots of all time, easily in my top 10, is in the beginning when you have that guy, you have this wide shot, right? You have this beautiful panorama. And then this guy comes into the screen and you're basically looking up his nose that it's such a close up.
Yep.
So you have this wide shot that turns into a big old close up.
Yep.
And that's just, that's not.
It's interesting because he did the same thing with Once Upon a Time in the West too, where he had a lot of close up shots of like the guy catching the fly in the muzzle of the gun and stuff. Like he would go from that to like the whole wide angle of like the train station.
Yeah.
I don't know. He liked catching like people's eyes, I think. Like what they were looking at and what they're feeling.
Especially, sorry to jump on you, man. I get like thoughts and I just bulldoze ahead.
No, you're good.
And so the scene at the end, do you think there's ever been like, so it starts with, it's bookended by two master shots, right? So you get the wide shot of the three men in the graveyard and then you just go to their eyes and they kind of narrow in. It keeps narrowing in. And I think I think the shower scene in Psycho is really studied on how that was made, but I think standing right next to it is that scene in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the final standoff with the music and the editing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
I mean, that shows right there that the music and editing is like what makes that, I mean, granted the shots and stuff, but it's like, that's what's making three guys just standing, staring at each other interesting and tense. Like, I remember watching it for the first time way back when, and like, I was on the edge of my seat and I'm like, this is an old 60s movie that's like really like, I mean, I haven't felt like that in a long time.
Yeah. And you know what felt amazing for me is the massive attacking scene when they go after the bridge. The
Oh
troops,
yeah.
like we don't see that much anymore. Just massive practical battles.
I heard that one of those rocks almost hit Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and
Or whatever when it exploded.
what Eli Wallach was almost, or right, he was almost killed a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it landed right next to them, like a huge boulder.
It's like just, and Clint Eastwood would practice his golf swing up there too.
Jeez.
But no, I mean, what I like though about Sergio Leone is he was a perfectionist, and so I just loved, like, I don't know, I just thought everything he did in this movie was beautiful. And like, you remember in Inglourious Basterds, the beginning when Hans Landa meets that guy, he goes to that guy's house and sits down with him, and it's pretty wordless for a while.
Oh yeah.
There's that lunch scene in this movie. That's basically that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell that Quentin Tarantino, especially with the spaghetti westerns, like he takes a lot from that. I mean, even Django. I mean, Django is from like an older western, right?
Yeah.
The series or whatever it was. So I mean, like you can tell that Quentin Tarantino. I heard that one of his favorite movies is also Rio Bravo with John Wayne.
Love that movie.
I love that movie too, and that's one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movies because he said it's like just a cool hangout movie. But he says he shows that to like his girlfriends, and if like the girl doesn't like it, then he ends the relationship.
What a maniac.
I know, right?
I feels like we're bagging on Tarantino, but I kind of stopped doing that when I was probably, what, 23?
Yeah, exactly. Come on.
And the fact that I did it when I was 23 is pretty crazy. But
Yep.
So I guess the point I was trying to make about Leone being a perfectionist is when you're talking about the editing at the end, it's like the energy of this rip-roaring feat of visual poetry feels chaotic, but the structure of it is methodological, even mathematical. So it feels very chaotic, but every one of those shots was planned out perfectly.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of just, I love how there's a science behind it.
Because he probably knew how it was going to turn out in the editing bay and everything like that. Like he knew how he wanted it.
Yeah, I just love that but like for something to be so mathematical to feel so chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a skill in its own.
Yeah. This is out of all the spaghetti westerns, like this is my favorite one. And out of all the Sergio Leone films, this is my favorite one. But I do like the other ones too that he does. Fistful of Dollars and for a few dollars more that came out like a couple of years beforehand or whatever. And then Once Upon a Time in the West is really good too.
Oh yeah, I love that movie. I mean, I don't know. I guess the importance of this movie is, I mean, it's still felt today.
Right. Yeah. Like you're saying with Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, but also I don't think, the Western genre isn't as big as it was in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But when a movie does come out and it's a Western, I think like this movie influenced a lot of them, especially with like the way they're shot and the way like they're like, especially like graphic. The Wild Bunch has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
But because this one came out in 66, like I just feel like the graphic nature, I mean, those like gunshots are like, pew, like hearing the echo and everything, and then seeing like the brutal shots. Especially, I know we're not going to talk about the Wild Bunch, that's why I'm mentioning it a little bit more now. But in the Wild Bunch, you see like the blood splatters and everything like that outside of a body. That in the old movies, Western, somebody got shot, they just fell over right onto their bullet wound and they were dead.
Yeah, I watched The Wild Bunch probably a year ago, and I was just like, holy shit. There's
like a lot of slow motion shots too, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I remember that, but
maybe not. Maybe that was a different one, but I thought there was like a slow motion shot or something.
Maybe there is. And I guess there's two lines I just want to go before we move on. When you're going to shoot, don't talk. Like that's what Lee Van Cleef said that, right?
Right.
To the guy. Like that's you can still see that being said today. And then when Clint Eastwood's like, those with loaded guns, there's two people, those with loaded guns and those who dig. And like Bruce Campbell, remember in Army of Darkness? He's like, he has the boomstick and, that guy digs. He's like, what's on your face? And the dirt hits him. Like, it's, I don't know, even the movies in the 90s were kind of stealing from the coolness of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and the other films, of course.
Right.
So,
it's definitely one of my favorites. But yeah, I'll let you introduce 67.
Ooh. So
unless you want me to, it's up to you.
Yeah, this was. I mean, we both love this movie, but you suggested that this is one of your favorites, so I'd love for you to.
Yeah, this is in Robert's top 10. Robert's top 10 list. It's number 7. The Graduate, 1967. Dustin Hoffman, Anne Bancroft, Catherine Ross, who we're gonna mention later on in another movie. Basically, it's about a guy. It's a very artsy film directed by Mike Nichols, and it's about a guy who ends up, after graduating from college, he's not sure what he wants to do with his life, and he ends up getting into an affair with his parents' friend's wife.
Yep.
And which is played by Anne Bancroft, who married Mel Brooks. I forget when, but I think a little bit after this. But anyways, he gets into a big affair with her. He's sleeping with her, meeting her at a hotel all the time. And then finally, her daughter, Mrs. Robinson, that's her name. Mrs. Robinson's daughter shows up, and he ends up going out on a date with her reluctantly, and ends up actually falling in love with the daughter, which causes a lot of chaos.
And one of the greatest endings of all time.
Yeah, like, I know I just mentioned the good and the bad and the ugly having like an amazing ending, but the ending to this is like right up there too. I think in like the top 10 greatest endings of a movie ever.
Because sorry.
No, go ahead.
Many people talk about the happily ever after. These two.
Oh yeah.
It's more of like a oh shit.
Well, Mike Nichols, when he shot that like final scene, he basically told them to just sit there and do what they want. Like he didn't tell them how to be. So like they're kind of smiling and joyous that they're getting together, but then you can tell like they're confused right afterwards, which is kind of like the whole idea of the film is like, oh yeah, they don't know what they're going to do now. Like it's kind of almost, it's like really depressing.
Like everything was kind of him dealing with kind of boredom in the beginning of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how like a lot of his decisions are made, and then he kind of has to make his own way, right? Like,
right.
And I think one of the most important things about this movie is just the casting of Dustin Hoffman.
Right. This was his first major role, right?
Yep. So yeah, Relative Unknown. Yeah, like Dustin Hoffman was just doing plays, and he was kind of in New York acting. And Mike Nichols, this was only his second film, and I guess we talked about Jack Lemmon in The Apartment, but this is a brand new kind of character with Dustin Hoffman.
Mm-hmm. He was awkward as shit. So awkward. Like when he touches, the first night he goes to sleep with Anne Bancroft is like so awkward how when he's going to get like the hanger to like hang up her coat or her shirt, and then he like touches her boob. Like he just like puts his hand on her boob, but he like doesn't do anything, and it's like really awkward. And she's like smoking, and he goes to lean in for a kiss, and he kisses her before she can blow out the smoke. I mean, like that kind of stuff. You could tell like he was super nervous.
Yeah, and when had that happened before? Like there hadn't really been characters like this before.
Right.
And
I also think. Oh no, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Oh no, I was gonna say like as a whole, like this movie, like the way it played out and the way it was made was very like artsy, where it wasn't like a big studio budget type movie, even though it had a good cast. It felt like that artsy type, almost like the French films to me that came out like years earlier. It kind of had that feel, and for it to get into like the top 100 highest grossing films, I think if you adjust for inflation, like blows my mind.
Yeah, 21 domestic.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, people lined up 4 times around theaters to watch this movie. Yeah. And I know this is kind of weird, and you still feel like the DNA of this film in movies like Garden State.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're as well made, but this character really spoke to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I thought that was pretty neat.
Well, I read somewhere that when you graduate, after graduating college, even high school, like the early 20s, that's where a lot of people actually commit suicide. Because they don't know like what to do. They're really confused at that age. There's a lot of questions. And especially nowadays, like not even talking about suicide, but like finding a job. I know people who like graduate with a college degree and then they can't get a job in that field. And they're doing like these other jobs that like just to hurry up and try to like work, get some money made and like try to find something that they're passionate about. So I feel like after he graduated, he was bored. He was unsure what he wanted to do and his parents are pushing him. Like he was supposed to go to graduate school, right?
Yeah.
So like they're like pushing him for that and he didn't really know what he wanted to do. And then he like hooks up with this older lady. She kind of like tells him, she made him, I think, more confident in himself. And then all of a sudden her daughter comes into the picture, which he never cared for her daughter, but then he like instantly falls head over heels for her and it like turns into this big thing. And then now all of a sudden now he's back to being like confused because he doesn't know what to do.
And Mrs. Robinson was very like, cynical.
Yeah.
Like world weary.
Yeah.
And that kind of was scary for him, right? So he kind of went the other direction for the daughter.
Well, her whole like telling him that she like graduated, she wanted to do art or something like that, but then she didn't do it because she ended up getting pregnant. Like that kind of crushed her dreams. And then I think she had like that resentment towards her daughter because of that.
Yep.
So like it's kind of, I mean, it had some dark stuff too. And like it kind of starts off as a comedy and then gets more dramatic as it goes on.
Yeah. It's just kind of him finding his way almost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty interesting how he makes that very dramatic move at the end and didn't even think it through.
Right. Yeah, he just went for it. He was just like, screw it, I'm going to stop this wedding. And he went for it. But like you said, the very ending, it's ambiguous. You don't know like what's going to happen with them. Like it's just so weird.
That look is perfect though.
Yeah. That blank stare.
And I think 67, this character I feel kind of started the really sort of different type of actor. 67 to 74? Because then you had him in Midnight Cowboy, and then you had the really interesting role by Jon Voight in Midnight Cowboy. That had never been seen before.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously it wasn't, this Bonnie and Clyde kind of helped with that as well. But I just love how one movie, like no one wanted Dustin Hoffman. People didn't really want Mike Nichols. And then this movie just explodes.
Yeah, because I think in the book, because it's based on a book, the guy in the book was actually blonde and more handsome, and they picked Dustin Hoffman, who's not technically what a lot of people would consider handsome, and he had darker hair, a big nose, kind of stuff like that, but you know, he was a good actor, and he was actually older than they wanted him. I think he was only a couple years younger than Anne Bancroft at that point.
Yeah, he was too old. But they figured he was just kind of young, so they're like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think he nailed the role, and it like catapulted him into fame. So like, I think it worked out for everybody involved. And like, I think there's, just as one of the bloopers, when he is trying to hook up with Mrs. Robinson in the hotel room, and he touches her boob, I think that was improvised. And he like grabbed her boobs, sat there for a second. She didn't even move. She was like still putting her clothes on a hanger. And then he like turned around and like walked to the edge of the bed over to the wall and just started banging his head against the wall. Apparently he was laughing after he did that. So like he banged his head against the wall to stop himself from laughing during the take. That's what I like heard somewhere. So I think that's pretty interesting.
And this is also the time when, the big studio system, there was independent financiers were starting to come in. So, you know, like the big studio system where people under contract and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. This is like, this year almost marks the switch towards other people stepping in. Like they were bought out by corporations.
That's what I'm saying. Like this kind of movie, it had a very indie feel to it. And it was like, didn't have a huge studio budget. So the fact that it turned the tide, and then like, I think like any indie movie nowadays, like can kind of thank The Graduate for like coming in and making it mainstream, making indie mainstream.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. This was, I mean, if Zach Braff makes Garden State and doesn't mention The Graduate, you know, I see something kind of squirrely with that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite movies, and like, one of the best movie in 1967 in my opinion, but like just one of my favorite movies of all time.
You want to jump to 68?
Sure.
All right,
I'll
so,
let you do the first one.
I dig it. So I guess we were going to cover Night of the Living Dead and Rosemary's Baby since they were our favorites, but we recorded a Romero pod special where we do talk about Night of the Living Dead, so I don't want to, beat a dead horse and make it turn into a zombie and have a zombie horse chasing me. But two horror films in '68 came out that changed. I mean, a bunch of kids from Pittsburgh made a zombie movie with fast and loose rules, no budget. They did like advertisements in the city, and that basically set the precedent for all zombies moving forward. Which I think is amazing. But the other movie, Rosemary's Baby, which you and I briefly covered on horror movies for people who don't like horror movies. That's a great pod. Right. Listen to it. You will love it. It's probably, it's a very good pod. It's actually one of the ones people listen to the most, which is pretty awesome. Nice. Yeah. It's like always a popular one. But, Rosemary's Baby, I think is interesting because it's a classy horror film. Like, Polanski made it. It had not William Goldman, but yeah, Polanski wrote the script for it, and I thought it was really kind of interesting how he did it. In the book that it was based on, it was much more about heaven, hell, but Polanski was an agnostic, so he felt the same way about heaven as he did hell, so he left it openly kind of vague if the woman was kind of going mad, Rosemary. But I think this movie opened the door for The Exorcist and other kind of films, because this was an A-plus cast and film, and like it was an A-plus film made on like a B-movie level.
Right.
And I think it fits perfectly with The Graduate and those other kind of films, because I keep saying films, but it really changed the landscape of cinema, because it was an Oscar-worthy movie. That was a horror movie.
Yeah. Ruth Gordon won an Oscar for playing Minnie, the next door neighbor.
And you know what's crazy? A lot, I don't know if it's crazy, but Jordan Peele, whenever he talks about Get Out, the first thing he mentions is Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, I can see that. There's a lot of similarities between the two. Rosemary's Baby, it's always classified as horror, but to me, it's more suspense thriller. There's not like blood and guts and stuff like that. Like it is like Night of the Living Dead is, seeing zombies eat people and stuff like that. But like Rosemary's Baby is more of like who do you trust kind of movie. So Roman Polanski actually had two other movies, one called Repulsion and one called The Tenant.
Yeah.
And then Rosemary's Baby came out. Like those three I've heard are like they're a loosely based trilogy of basically living in an apartment building. And I think it kind of shows that Polanski doesn't trust people. Like he just doesn't like people, or maybe he just doesn't like living in apartments.
And he hates apartments.
He hates apartment buildings.
And I kind of like what you said about not trusting people, because whenever someone put a glass down in this movie, he told them where to put the glass down.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like whenever anybody, like everything was. So who's the TV the actor that was in this who played
John Cassavetes?
Yeah,
John Cassavetes played Guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and like he likes it loose, and him and Polanski fought a lot on set, but Polanski won out. And I don't know. And also a B-movie producer did this film. Holy shit! All right, Jason Blum from Blumhouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a TV guy who was untested in film made a movie. That's pretty much Rosemary's Baby.
That's crazy. I mean, it does. It has a different feel than like a lot of. Although, like, I try to think back. I mean, think horror movies like before this time. Like, I think both Night of the Living Dead and Rosemary encapsulated like every type of horror movie that there could be. Like, you had the bloody, gross, zombie kind of creatures, and then you also had Rosemary, which was more suspense thriller, not trusting people, but not having a lot of blood, like doesn't really have blood and guts. Like it had like, there's like this year had two movies that came out that were both considered like some of the best horror movies that encapsulated everything that a horror movie could be.
Absolutely. And they were completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, not even close.
Yeah. And you know what's weird is Night of the Living Dead, they did, wait, no, so you know why they filmed Night of the Living Dead in black and white?
I thought it was because of budget, but
they found out that it would have been like only a few hundred more, but the extra time it would have taken to do color.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that time.
That makes sense.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Plus, Night of the Living Dead had a lead black character.
Yeah.
Which was, like, interesting for the time, too.
And you know what I love about that? Like, they were talking, so this is, if you should get the Criterion Blu-ray of Night of the Living Dead. It just came out. It's unbelievable. And there's a commentary in it. He says this over and over and over again. He cast, Dwayne Jones just because he did the best audition.
Oh, nice.
Like,
so it wasn't even that he was black. That makes sense.
Yeah, like, so when everyone was, like, saying how, like, great they are for casting him, they're like, what? He's just the best actor.
Right.
I feel like that's more,
That's how it should be?
Yeah. Like, and they don't even want to pat on the back because they're like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Like, so I feel like that's more progressive than them casting someone because they wanted to piss people off. That feels
like they were trying to be edgy or whatever. Yeah.
And that could actually, I feel like sometimes is insulting. They just did it because they liked Dwayne Jones.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, like, that kind of thing is, I don't know, like, with all the older movies, you had Sidney Poitier, which is, like, the most known back then, but that's about it. I mean, like, as far as, like, black actors go, like, that were, like, really popular. So to give, like, a chance to, like, this guy just because he's the best actor, there you go. Yeah, like, awesome. That's how it should be for a lot of movies.
That was awesome. And you know what's pretty interesting about this movie, Rosemary's Baby? It went behind schedule big time. Otto Preminger, the great director of Laura, Anatomy of a Murder, was like told Polanski not to worry about it and just do whatever he wanted because the studio liked the rushes, the raw footage that they were seeing. So he's like, do whatever you want, kid. They like the movie.
Oh shit, nice.
I don't know. I think that's pretty neat. Like, so like the studio, I don't know. I kind of liked it. Like this is a horror film that was so meticulous, like a Kubrick film that was so meticulous that it went over budget and over time, but the studio loved it so much.
It does. It actually feels like, you know, Kubrick's The Shining. Like, it's more thriller-ish. It takes its time developing the characters, developing the story. It doesn't feel the need to do any kind of jump scares.
And Kubrick said Polanski said he wanted to scare the audience when the lights were on in the film.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like daytime horror, like Session 9. There's
not a lot of them.
There's not many daytime.
Yeah.
Or like brightly lit. I don't know. I just like the mass conspiracy. Oh, you know what though? If you think about the tenants of the building and then the people in Get Out.
That's what I'm saying. It's like there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh.
So I just had a mind. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, it's that idea that almost like Twilight Zone-ish, where it's like everybody's out to get you kind of thing. And even her husband is out to get her.
Yeah, you're right. You know what the one thing Polanski hates about this movie?
What?
Mia
Farrow?
The Satan hands. Like the big furry.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, those are stupid. He actually sent Mia Farrow pregnant into traffic.
Really?
Yeah. There's a scene of her going through traffic and there were no drivers. Like,
oh, shit.
That was live traffic he sent her through.
That's scary.
Yeah, you can't do that nowadays. I don't know if we should applaud that.
Yeah, I know, right? Now that you say it, like that whole dream sequence, that was kind of creepy.
Yeah. Man, I want to watch Rosemary's Baby again.
I have that on Criterion.
Ooh. I think the ending's perfect too. Cause it's her baby.
Right.
And she has that look.
I actually read the book, Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin or whatever, and the adaptation, the movie, is actually pretty close. There's even like lines of dialogue in the book that I remember, because I read the book after the movie, that were in the movie. And I thought that was cool.
Oh,
like, it's pretty
nice.
Much, yeah. So, like, if you're watching the movie, there are some things that are changed, like most books to movie adaptations, but overall, that and even Psycho by Robert Bloch, I think that's who wrote it, but those two books are, like, pretty similar to the movies.
Nice. I mean, you have good source material, use it.
And it's not a long book, it's like 200 pages. So it's plenty, like, they had plenty of time to, like, use a lot of what's in the book. They didn't have to cut stuff out.
Nice. Was there more, like, of a Christian element, or like a heaven-hell element in the book than in the...
I mean, yeah, maybe like a little bit, but it's like, it's not, I mean, it wasn't, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like, it didn't, like really change the aspect of it. Like, it still felt kind of how the movie was portraying it. Like, that was just my take of it. Like, I remember reading the book and being like, oh my gosh, that was like the movie. That was exactly like the movie. Like, kind of how I felt the movie was trying to portray all those aspects of the characters and, I guess, heaven and hell.
I think directors got to learn sometimes that if they have great source material, just let it breathe.
Yeah.
Like Fincher did that with Fight Club.
Yeah.
Like you have good stuff. Just, control what people are looking at.
Yeah, that's the thing is you want to make it visual. Like that you got to make it appealing to the eyes at that point. But if you have something where it's not, I can understand, you make a movie based on War and Peace or Gone with the Wind or some other really long book, then you have to kind of take liberties and cut stuff out. You can't have a 10-hour movie.
Oh, but you have a 200-page book, right? And you have more time to breathe on screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. You don't have to take as many liberties.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they're doing that. Like all you really have to do is just take it and turn it into, a visual medium at that point. Granted, you still have to change some stuff because books to movies, they don't always translate that well. But overall, like I said, some of the dialogue in the book is in the movie, and I think that it worked out. And it's just as chilling in the book and the movie. I don't know.
That makes me like the movie more.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever get a chance, you want to read the book, it's only like 200 pages.
And this helps what we're saying about influential movies, because with Get Out and Omen and Exorcist, you can feel its vibe.
Mm-hmm.
You picked a good one, Robert.
That was a good one. All right. Last one?
Yeah. Do you want to jump on this one?
No, you do this one.
1969, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And we picked this one. Actually, Westerns kind of fell off in the 70s, but the core relationship between Paul Newman and Robert Redford is, I think, the most important part of this film. And also, William Goldman wrote the script. He sold it for $400,000 in 1969, which, it's insane. And I think the two most important parts of this movie were there had been buddy films before this, but this was a new kind of buddy dynamic. And also, it took place in the Old West, but the dialogue was pretty modern. And it's kind of crazy. Like, critics like Roger Ebert didn't like it. They're like, oh, it takes place in the past, but it has modern dialogue. That's stupid. But now, like, look how many movies do that.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I just think this movie with, like putting Robert Redford into the stratosphere, Paul Newman, and just kind of making this kind of duo, this kind of like people together is, I don't know. I think that's where the importance of this movie comes from.
Yeah, I think, like they have great chemistry. And actually, who's the guy who directed this? George Roy Hill?
Yeah.
George Roy Hill directed this, and then he also directed The Sting, which won Best Picture also, in the 70s with Robert Redford and Paul Newman, just because they had great chemistry. I mean, they're like you're saying, this is kind of like a buddy movie, but a Western. And like, to me, it doesn't even really necessarily feel like a Western all that much, in the sense that it takes place in the West, but then half of the movie takes place in Bolivia.
And it has Burt
and
Bacharach.
It's got a lot of elements to it. A lot of weird things. But one thing that I noticed, George Roy Hill likes to use still images to when they go to Bolivia, because I guess they take a cruise or they take a ship down there, right?
Yeah.
Because it shows them on the ship, but it's like still frames. It's all like these old-timey sepia-toned pictures showing just how they got from one place to, they went to like New York or something like that, and then took a ship down to Bolivia. And then he did the same thing in The Sting, where in between, he almost played it like chapters, and in between the chapters, he would name the title of the chapter and then show like a still image of it, which I think is interesting in a film.
It's almost like a Wes Anderson type vibe, like showing the travel by pictures.
Yeah.
And also, this is one of the first kind of films where the heroes are on the run the entire time.
That's true. Like, ever since, they robbed that one train and those outlaws come out, which, apparently, I read that, the gang, the Hole in the Wall gang, which is what they were a part of, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, they were gonna call it, like, in the script it was called the Wild Bunch, but they changed it because of Sam Peckinpah's movie coming out.
And it was also, like, really successful, and I think it's held up. It's not too bloody.
No. Which is, like, that's why, like, we could easily, at this point, talk about Butch Cassidy or the Wild Bunch. Because, like, to me, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and the Wild Bunch kind of is reminiscent of Rosemary's Baby and Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, two movies that are, westerns, but one's more brutal and like gripping and about bad guys, and the other one that's more about like they're not good guys, they're bad guys too, but they're on the run and it's not as brutal, and it's like it's even got Burt Bacharach.
And they did a bunch of quips. Like up until the end, they're making quips. Like
they were all the way.
Like even when they're like, there's a lot of danger. Like, who are these guys? And I don't know. Look at Tango and Cash, right? Or Fled, or any of these movies. They all draw DNA from Butch Cassidy and Sundance.
Yep.
And I mean, you look at what, I know this doesn't work, but like Moulin Rouge using, it's in the past, but it's using contemporary music.
Right.
And like this movie, man, like, so I know people probably don't look at it as like, 2001, just the classics of the 60s, but I don't think the movie has to be, I don't know. I mean, it was nominated for a lot of Oscars, but I just think the vibe of this movie's felt more today than some classics.
I think so. It's one of those movies that people know, and like you said, like, I remember when he wrote it, like, they just knew that this was going to be a good movie. But then I think, like, when it released, let me think. Yeah, I think when it released, it didn't necessarily, like, draw crowds right away, but then eventually it did. Like, word of mouth spread, and people just went and saw it.
Let's see. Wait.
I was trying to look up.
It also it won 9 categories at the BAFTAs.
Yeah, which I think was the most at that time.
Yeah, and I don't know, I just think this movie, it just, like you said, like Night of the Living Dead, Rosemary's Baby, and this movie found a way to just keep it light, not light. I mean, it's still pretty, there's still a lot of, and it has they die at the end.
Right, and that's another thing is like having I know I'm using heroes loosely, but like having the main characters die like at the very end when it like, you don't see it. It just goes to a still screen and you hear all the gunshots. So they're pretty much dead. But like, I thought that was ballsy.
And like, I guess there had been movies with like con men, what Some Like It Hot, and other movies where there's like con men kind of people that you follow. But this is one of the first where they're just, kind of murderers, but they're like real likable.
Yeah.
And they're like,
almost like Bonnie and Clyde, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. But then like this wasn't even as it's kind of weird. This took place at 1969 when Midnight Cowboy and all those movies were taking place, and it didn't need to be as R-rated to be as big.
Right.
And man, this movie's more of an influential than I thought.
I don't know. I really like this movie. I just watched it again this week for this podcast, but I've seen it a couple times, and like, I know it's classified as a Western, but for me, it's just, I don't know. I think of it more as a buddy movie, a buddy film than like a true Western. I mean, like I said, like the first half of it feels very Western-y, but they're on the run, and then like when they go to Bolivia, it feels like a different movie then.
Yeah, you're right. There's kind of like, there's like montages of them like riding bicycles and having fun and.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, do you think Han Solo has a certain Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid vibe?
I think so. Yeah, very cool, quippy, I don't know. Yeah, I can see that.
Like ladies' men, they get away.
Likeable, yeah. Even though he's like kind of like a smuggler, he's likable, like kind of how they are.
He gets turned into Carbonite. I love you, I know.
And I actually just read recently that Paul Newman is on like Reddit posted it on their homepage, but Susan Sarandon was interviewed for some movie that she starred in with I forget what the movie was, Gene Hackman and Paul Newman. And apparently when they found out that Susan Sarandon found out she wasn't getting paid as much as her male co-stars, and Paul Newman actually just gave her like the difference, like just gave her the money.
That's awesome.
Which is like, here. Yeah. And like, I've always heard that Paul Newman in general is like a nice guy.
Yeah, I buy all his salsa.
Hey, I was gonna say, dude, that ranch dressing, pretty good stuff.
I love Newman, man. Like, so just the way that, alright, so the way that these two work together and just the quips that they had, and they weren't like polar opposites either.
No.
So that's kind of, and you know how there's like misplaced buddy cop films? These guys,
so, like, Butch was like the smart one,
yeah.
Or at least he's the one who came up with the plans, and Sundance was more like the reckless, but also like could shoot really well. But then you find out like I don't know, like, how reckless could Sundance be? He couldn't swim. He didn't, like, necessarily, like, kill people, like, crazily or whatever.
Yeah.
But then Butch Cassidy also said, like, you know, he never really shot anybody. And then he also, like, his ideas never, like, they didn't come to fruition easily. Like, he didn't know the language when they moved to Bolivia.
William Goldman's pretty great, huh?
Oh, yeah.
He also did, Princess Bride?
Mm-hmm. I was gonna look him up real quick.
That dude's a treasure. But yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
what I like about this list is, we had some Westerns, we had some kind of different, like, all these films in their own way really, I don't know, I don't see that much going forward with films.
Yeah, no, especially now, like, I think movies, there are still, like, the indie scene's pretty big now, which is nice, but also, like, movies have to, like, they have to make a big impact at the box office. Especially, like, with all the competition now with, like, TV shows and streaming services and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm kind of scared about, like, what's to come with film.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to get people in the theaters with, like, as big a spectacle. I was talking about this, movies like Mother and Annihilation, they're all very good, but they're not mass appeal, and they're all marketed wrong. And then that turns people off from going to the theater. So it's interesting how these kind of things are going. And all these movies we talked about were basically big hits. I mean, Strangelove made a lot of money, Great Escape made a lot of money, Dr. No, Breathless was huge in overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Apartment was a big, oh yeah.
Yeah, most of them.
Well, this was fun, man.
Yeah, I like, all these movies were fun to watch, too.
If you had to pick one for people to watch, which one would you do?
I'm gonna have to go Graduate, man.
Doctor Strangelove for me.
Yeah, I can see that. Oh, because those are in our top 10s.
Yeah. Yeah, I think dude, that's actually a good one. Graduate and Doctor Strangelove for the 60s.
Yeah.
They're both like, one takes place in the early 60s, one takes place in the later. They kind of, Doctor Strangelove was ahead of its time. Yep. And then so was The Graduate.
Oh, yeah.
You should do it. Mike Nichols, Stanley Kubrick, doubleheader.
Hey, that's not bad.
That's right. Hey, do you have any plugs before we go off the air?
Sure. I do a bunch of fictional podcasts, so if you want to check those out, basically I write scripts, have people act in them. I do everything from horror to sci-fi to dramedy. You can check those out at blogtalkradio.com/7lamb. That's SEVENLAMB. And you'll find out we have Atlas Avenue Beat, which is a film noir. Paralyzed is horror. Story is dramedy. End of All Hope is sci-fi apocalyptic tale. And basically they're just, like audiobooks split up into little chapters that you can listen to, like the old radio shows. So definitely check those out.
Heck yeah. And then if you get a chance, just go to Movies, Films, and Flicks on iTunes and rate, review, and subscribe. And yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we did it. We should cover some other decades in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, and Robert Lamb, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you later.